Pewter, Lego Batman here. Play House of EdTech with Chris Nesi.
House of EdTech, episode 81.
I'm Carrie Gallagher, Digital Learning Specialist, and you're listening to the House of EdTech with Chris Nesi.
Support for this episode comes from summerpd.com. Expand your knowledge of Google Classroom, apps, formative assessments, and much more. They offer 10 courses, and you can get all of them for just $25 when you use the coupon code HouseofEdTech, no spaces. Sign up now to access the courses for professional development on your schedule. And thank you, as always, to summerpd.com for all your support. Welcome to the House of EdTech podcast. I am your host, Christopher Nesi. And the House of EdTech explores how technology is changing the way teachers teach and the impact that technology is having in education. My objectives include discussing technology that is changing our classrooms and schools and sharing tools and tips that you can hear about today and use tomorrow. I talk to teachers, leaders, and creators just like you and have them share their stories. The purpose? Whether you use it or not, technology is changing the way we teach and how our students learn. And welcome inside episode 81 of the House of EdTech podcast. Only 19 more episodes till episode 100. Now, I can't say that I'll remind you that episode 100 is coming in every episode, but I'm not going to lie to you. I'm very excited that we're getting close to what I think is a big milestone. If this is your first time here, this episode should be better than the previous 80, because as I tell everybody, I'm always learning something new about podcasting and how I edit audio and how I put the show together. I appreciate you checking out the podcast. Again, if this is your first time, hopefully you will subscribe and leave feedback, comments, rate and review, and all those wonderful things. And I'm glad that you are here listening. Coming up in this episode, we have, of course, the EdTech Thought, where I'm going to be talking about tomorrow's classroom today. I have a great House of EdTech recommendation, and it's something Google related. And no episode is ever complete until I tell you the House of EdTech VIP. And I have a great conversation that I am looking forward to sharing with you that I recently had with Megan Forbes. She is a California middle school teacher and YouTuber. But before we get into that, I do have some feedback I would like to share with you. So let's go to the old House of EdTech answering machine for some feedback related to episodes 80 and 79.
You have new messages.
Hey there, Chris Nesi. Mike Murata here on Twitter at MMATP. Just checking in about episode 79. Really enjoyed it. Liked the conversation about presentations. The tools that you brought up were great. I hadn't heard of a few of them, and I was playing with them. They're excellent. I do a lot of presentations, and I thought I wanted to share one other thing with your listeners. You gave some great tips for tools to use for presentations. I want to give you a tip for a book to read about being a better presenter. It's one of my favorite books. I go back to it probably 2-3 times a year and just read through it. It's by Gar Reynolds. It's called The Naked Presenter. Outstanding book. It talks about strategies of how to be a better presenter. He does an awesome job. If you want to follow him online, he's at Presentation Zen. Also some amazing stuff. So wanted to share that. Thanks very much. Keep up the good work, and I'll keep listening. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for checking in, Mike. Always a pleasure to get some feedback from you. And yes, definitely check out Gar's book, The Naked Presenter. There will be a link to the book in the show notes if you want to pick that up. And that's going to be over at chrisnesi.com/81. Next up, we have a voicemail feedback from Derek Larson, and he's got some kind words about episode 80.
Hey, buddy. Great show. Chris, love the show, episode number 80. Open education resources are a huge topic right now, and they're a huge need. And I was so happy to be able to hear some excellent discussion with the amazing Carrie Gallagher as she shared her thoughts and her ideas on open education resources. Really, it was a great episode. Lots of good information shared there, and frankly, it's one that probably should be listened to a second time, just to be able to digest it all. So thank you for bringing amazing people to the show and pulling out some good information with them and helping them really tell their story and share what they're passionate about. I love learning more about Carrie and hearing about her skiing love. Carrie and I have been friends for a while online, and I was not aware that she was a ski instructor, so that was pretty cool to learn as well. Next time you have her on, you'll have to talk to her about her law school and her law degree, because that was really interesting when I learned about that, the fact that she's got a law degree, but yet she's also an educator, and that was pretty impressive to me, frankly. And I was hoping you would have touched on it, but maybe that's for the next time she comes into the House of EdTech. So, Chris, again, fabulous job, and I look forward to the next 19 and beyond. I can't wait to see what you have for episode 100. I know it'll be a big, crazy bash, and I'm super excited to see where it goes. So, thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Derek. Always great to get feedback from you, and the fact that you take advantage of sending it through Voxer just makes it that much easier for me. And yes, you kind of spoiled. I do definitely want to have Carrie back on the podcast where we can delve into her law career and really just explore that. So yeah, thanks for spoiling that, Derek. Really appreciate it, buddy. That's all I have here at the top of the show. So let's get over to the House of EdTech thought. I'm calling this EdTech thought Tomorrow's Classroom Today, and I'm going to address two questions: how to get tomorrow's classroom today, and what's in tomorrow's classroom. This is a recent topic of conversation for SatChat. Now, the question comes from the name of a great annual conference put on by New Jersey's Evolving Educators, so I'd like to shout out Billy Krakauer, Brad Curry, and Scott Rocco. They do an awesome job with Evolving Educators and SatChat, of course, but they also do a great job to put this conference on every year in the spring. And again, this spring, 2017, is going to be the third annual, which I'm looking forward to attending and presenting at. But the two questions: how to get tomorrow's classroom today, and what's in that classroom. Now, my views and opinions on this particular topic, they're probably going to be oversimplified, but I'm going to give it a shot. First, the classrooms of tomorrow will be drastically different from those that exist right now. Just think about your own student experience and what was and wasn't happening, or even possible, when you yourself were younger and a student in school. Now, if you've been teaching for more than 10 years, you're already teaching in a different classroom than when you started your career. I myself am almost done with my 9th year in education, and there have been so many advancements since I student taught in the fall of 2007. I believe that the drastic changes could take the form of shifts in how we assess students, how teacher preparation programs are developed, how education is funded, as well as what and how teachers teach. This is just the beginning, and this is like the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. While some may say the future of education is dark, I do, in my heart of hearts, remain optimistic. The reason I speak positively is because things like ed camps and changes to how we learn and grow, and the many conversations that are happening now that will impact our classrooms today and tomorrow. Consider innovative activities like Breakout EDU, virtual reality, and the many, many tools that allow us to connect with other professionals and to connect our students like never before. The second question, what's in the classroom of tomorrow, plays out in my head also in a very simple way. Let me first say that it's not about the advanced gadgets. It's not about the technology. It's not about lasers and a light show and, a digital dog and pony show. I think what's in the classroom of tomorrow will be a changed culture for the teacher and also for the students, because teaching as a profession is changing. And that goes back to what I said just a few seconds ago about how we're going to be preparing teachers. It's already happening. I know people who are here in New Jersey who are part of some different higher ed education programs, and there is a shift taking place in how teachers are being trained. There are conferences taking place, for the new teacher. Those of us that are already connected, we're trying to get more teachers connected. We're trying to speak positively and kind of rope in the new generation of educators. At least I know I do. I mean, I would love it if this podcast got shared with, brand new teachers. So this would be pretty cool. But again, it's not about gadgets. What's going to really affect the classroom of tomorrow in terms of what's in it is going to be the people and how families change, how our society changes, and how we continue to evolve and grow. So if you think it's about the stuff, it's not. Does the stuff play a role? Absolutely. With more interactive technology, the way we're, again, implementing things like virtual and augmented reality, that's all going to make a positive impact. But it goes back to what I think is important just as a simple lesson plan. You could have the greatest activities, but if you don't have a solid objective, you don't have an effective lesson. And if you don't have an effective lesson, there's no learning. So that's why I say the whole time, it's not about the stuff. It's about who we are, what we continue to learn, and what we want to share with our students and how we continue to shape and mold them. And I just think that that's going to continue to improve. Now, again, today's questions came from SatChat, came from the Evolving Educators. And if you are in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York area, and you're interested or want more information about TCT 2017, you can go to evolvingeducators.com. There will be a link in the show notes. And that is my EdTech thought. This episode's House of EdTech recommendation is kind of an oddball recommendation because it's not one specific app, website, or tool. It's more, I'm recommending that you check out a new feature. So recently, Google Keep is something that I have really taken to in terms of keeping my notes. And really that stems from the fact that Evernote wants to charge me money to sync to any number of more than 2 devices, which I'm sorry if you know me, and if you're just learning this for the first time, my favorite 4-letter F word is free. Google Keep is free. I like that. And it lets me sync across all devices. I like that. That's convenient. Works on my iPad, works on my phone, works on my desktop. I love it. They've added a new awesome feature to Google Keep. What they've done is they now allow you to connect it with Google Docs. And if you're a Google Apps for Education school, now G Suite, Google Keep has now been added to the G Suite platform. So this means that you will now be able to access it through your school accounts as an additional tool. It also means that you will now be able to quickly move your Google Keep notes into your Google Documents. In Google Docs, you will now see a Keep Notepad option in the Docs toolbar. You can open the toolbar and you will be able to drag notes from a sidebar that pops up on the right side, and you can drag these notes right into your document. And again, this is something I find particularly useful because I use an iPad mini and the Keep app is so easy to use. So I guess maybe that's a hidden recommendation. Go check out the Google Keep app. It's easy to use on my iPad, on my phone. It's not a memory hog. It's not a large app. And you can very quickly take notes inside of Google Keep. And once that's all synced up with your account, you can now drag them into and incorporate them into your Google Doc documents. So I think this pairing is a great alternative to the actual Docs app. You might debate me on this, and that's okay. I would welcome your feedback and thoughts on this particular recommendation, and you can stick around to the end of the show where you can get the contact information, or if you just want to jump into the comments area of this blog post, you can do that over at chrisnessy.com/81, and I'd love your thoughts on Google Keep and integrating it with Docs. And that is my EdTech recommendation. For this episode's featured content, I now look forward to pressing play on a previously recorded conversation with Megan Forbes, who again is a California middle school teacher and YouTuber. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I was initially going to talk with my guest through Zencastr, but sometimes the tech doesn't work here, even on the House of EdTech. So, almost like a radio, coming to me via phone from my computer. So we're making it work. I'd like to bring on Megan Forbes. She is from California, where she works for the Arcadia Unified School District. And Megan has a fantastic YouTube channel that's dedicated to encouraging and supporting teachers, especially new teachers. She currently teaches middle school English. She's also taught middle school social studies, which is her passion, and she loves to swap ideas with teachers all over the world. Megan, welcome to the House of EdTech.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to have you, and since I can hear him and he sounds cute, who else is with you tonight?
We also have my 7-month-old son here, so he's hanging out on my lap for a little while for our interview.
Excellent. He's one of the youngest listeners and guests to date, so I'm excited.
Yes, he makes an appearance in quite a few of the videos because he doesn't always stick to his nap time, but joining us today.
and it's going to be fine, so let's not worry. So, Megan, the reason I wanted to have you on the show today is because of your YouTube channel and the content you're creating. And, you know, for me as a podcaster, I'm creating one form of content, and that's mostly because, as I've joked, I have a face for radio. You're putting yourself out there in a completely different way, creating really awesome content. So talk a little bit about your YouTube channel and, you know, where it came from. And we can also talk about the geeky stuff about, you know, how you do it. But first, what inspired you?
I started my channel, it was 2 Decembers ago. It was actually during finals week. I was working through my master's program, and for some reason, whenever it's finals week, I always just get this urge to do something creative. I just want to avoid working on finals and avoid writing papers. So, of course, when I had, 25 pages left to write, I decided I should start a YouTube channel tonight. That would be a fun thing to do. So I had been watching a lot of like YouTube kind of style channels. There's a lot of like stay-at-home mom channels and then like fashion channels, and they were really interesting to me to watch. But I was looking for other people who were teachers because my lifestyle isn't the stay-at-home mom, and it's also not a fashionista. So I was looking for something in the middle, and then I just thought, well, I don't see any other teacher YouTubers on YouTube, so I'll try to do it myself. So my first couple of videos were kind of mimicking what I saw on YouTube with a lot of people do like empties videos and tag videos and stuff like that. But then after a couple, I just wanted to talk about teaching. And those are the videos that I like doing the best. People usually have a lot of questions for me about like classroom management or lesson planning or how to become a teacher or tips for new teachers. And so it kind of morphed into more teaching than lifestyle. So those are the videos that are actually more fun for me to make.
Some might say that teaching is a lifestyle.
Yeah, it really permeates everything you do. So even if I do something that's like a fashion video or something like that, it's tailored towards teachers because you're on your feet all day and you have to, get down and pick things up and help kids with things. And so I just thought it was kind of cool to have a little niche where teachers could come and talk about things like the best book they've read lately or the most comfortable shoes for standing on your feet all day or the best tech that they've found or things like that.
No, I think it's fantastic. And I've done a number of presentations and PD workshops about, creating content. And obviously I lean more towards podcasting, but I've also always mentioned, you could create video content if that's something that people feel comfortable with. And what I like about what you've done and what you are doing is you were looking for content. It wasn't there. So you stepped up and you are creating that content. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And since then, I've actually seen a lot more YouTubers that are teachers and a lot of teacher YouTube channels. So people have maybe not necessarily seen my channel, but also had the same ideas. And now there's a lot more popping up. So, I teach middle school, but there are some for elementary school, and you can kind of find somebody that is in a similar situation to you.
Now, I do need to ask, being that you are a middle school teacher, at one point in my career, I also taught middle school, and I firmly believe, you know where I'm going with this. I don't teach middle school anymore. I think it takes a special...
Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy, but it takes a special kind of person. So why middle school?
It really does take a special person. They're like aliens. They're not like little kids. And then, high schoolers are a little bit more working their way towards adulthood. And then middle school is just like this no man's land where some of them are still very, immature, usually in like a cute way. And then some of them really are trying to grow up really fast. So you've just got this span in your class. But the cool thing about middle school is that some of them are still trying to act too cool for school. And that's a phrase that I used to always say in my classroom. So I kind of incorporated it into my YouTube channel name. Some of them try to act too cool for school, but they're still reachable. Like they still will kind of buy into games or like interesting lessons that you want to try out with them a little bit more than the high schoolers that I've worked with. So it's just a fun age where they're pretty capable, but then you also can have a lot of influence on them.
Now, when you say that they are capable, I mean, we obviously believe that, all students can and will learn. What are some of the things that you're bringing to the English classroom, technology or otherwise, that make your class really exciting?
One thing that I really like about teaching English, since I did start as a history teacher, that's my main, my first credential. I did add English because there was just more demand for English teachers, so it helped me get a job in a slim job market. But I've kind of taken my skills from history and reading like primary source documents and informational text and deriving meaning from that. And I've taken that into my English classes, and it aligns really well with the Common Core. I think a lot of people who've been teaching English for a long time, their heart is just really in teaching like the novels and the literature and the poems, and they get a little bit sad when you have to take some time away from that to do more informational text. But I love informational text, so it's nice for me to be encouraged by my administration to do that, and then it's exciting for me.
And what does technology look like in Miss Forbes' classroom?
So at our school, we have one-to-one Chromebooks, and the kids get to take them home. They're theirs for the year. So they've got them at all times. Probably our biggest issue with them, though, is that they are not always charged because they've been playing games on them during lunchtime or whatever. So they are really connected to their technology all the time. So I use Google Classroom daily to communicate with them. In fact, right now I've been out at a training, and so I've been posting their assignments through Google Classroom every day, so I can still kind of communicate with them even when I'm not there. Some of my favorite sites that I love are Vocabulary. We do a lot of Newsella. More will come to me as we talk, I think. But yeah, I really love Vocabulary and Newsella. Those are kind of our biggest ones.
Now, I don't want this to sound like a job interview, but can you talk about one of your biggest successes using technology in the classroom, like a go-to lesson or just a unit, or just everything was really clicking and tech was a part of it?
Actually last week, I just kind of threw a lesson out there. I wasn't sure how it was going to go. It was something I had never done before, but the topic of fake news has been really relevant lately. And I noticed that on Newsella, which is, if any of your listeners don't know, a site that has current news, and the creators of Newsella take a news article and then they write it at about 6 or 7 different reading levels. So students can click on their Lexile level and they're able to understand the content, no matter what the reading levels are in your classroom. So if the kid has a really high reading level, they can go up to the max. And if a kid struggles, they can lower it a little bit, and you can still discuss that article with everyone. And nobody knows, if they're changing the reading level. It's just on their screen. So that's really cool. It's got some quizzes and things like that. And another cool feature is that they have text sets So they had a text set all on fake news. And there were 8 articles. So I split my kids into 8 groups, and they all had to kind of analyze the article. Oh, Teachers Pay Teachers is another great site. I found just kind of a template on Teachers Pay Teachers where they could analyze a news article. So they did that in groups, and then they had to present kind of their research, what they had found in this article. And they shared a lot of really good information, things that I didn't even necessarily know. They found stories about Benjamin Franklin writing fake news, fake newspapers. We had to explain what newspapers were, but they did a really great job and just shared information with each other and with me, and they did that all in their Chromebooks, and then they were able to bring it into the real world and actually discuss it. And I have hope for the future that they will be a little bit better at detecting fake news or advertisements than some of people my age are.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, with a lesson like that and instilling those skills, the fact that fake news is such a popular topic, it's something that will change, and it all starts in the classroom, really. Yeah.
There's actually another great lesson that we kind of blended with that one from Reading Like a Historian. If you just Google Reading Like a Historian, it'll take you to the Stanford Sheg website. And if you're a history teacher, they have great lessons there. But you could also use some of them for English, since it is Reading Like a Historian. It focuses on reading skills. And they had a little section on fake news as well. And then one of the articles that we read on Newsella referenced that lesson. And so it just kind of all came together. We were like, oh, wow, we're kind of in the know here. We're looking at everything.
And I mean, really, English should and could be the catch-all for all content, because it doesn't matter what subject, there is reading involved, whether it's math or, pick your subject. There's going to be some aspect of reading and comprehension. So
they need to have literacy across the content. So that's kind of nice for me that I didn't have a whole career teaching English, because I don't have my little kind of pet projects that I love to teach. So I'm pretty open to, doing science articles or doing history sources, or even math content. I've been trying to find a way to work more math content in, but yeah, I really like kind of literacy across the curriculum and bringing that into my classroom.
Now, on the flip side, because we've shared success, now this could be a little uncomfortable, but something that I've been talking about with a lot of people in my PLN of late is the idea that a lot of what we put out there, whether you're on Twitter or however you're connected, it's always happy, we're patting ourselves on the back. So I would challenge you, can you share a story where it didn't go well, it didn't work, and what you learned from it?
Well, one thing from that same unit, it's kind of a blessing and a curse that you can, you could be talking with students and they can kind of like lead the conversation. So a kid had mentioned like the shooter in like the pizza parlor, that there had been a fake news story. I don't know, about Hillary Clinton having something going on in a basement, and a guy showed up there with a gun, but it was fake news. And so I was like, oh yeah. And I Googled it and up on the screen and started to look for that article. And then as we're reading it, I hadn't read it ahead of time, so I realized there was kind of some inappropriate content in there. So I had to click out of that really quickly. So it can be a great thing. We could have maybe gotten this great news article that related exactly to what this kid had brought up. But then if you don't have time to check it first, then you just never know. The internet can be a little bit scary. And we don't have a lot of filters or blockers or anything on our internet, because we want them to be able to access whatever it is they're looking for. But, you're probably always going to have to just be wary of things you don't want to be the one that taught the kids that word or that story. So
right. But on the same, on the other, not the same side, but on the other side, you can't teach people to swim laying in the parking lot. You got to put them in the water. So
yeah.
To say that your school district kind of supports that, I mean, I think that is a positive.
Right. I think for many years they kind of blocked most things. Then you had to put in a request, to get on, access to a certain site, and then be a couple weeks before they would accept it or deny it. And by then, you're not even on that topic anymore. So yeah, our district is pretty forward thinking when it comes to technology. And they've told us, we're going to leave it open, and, you have a teaching credential and we trust you with 200 students a day. So we think we can trust you with the internet to, make wise decisions. So you just have to be checking things before you display it on your whiteboard. But
nice. And it's amazing what you describe as a district that says it's progressive. That just seems like stuff that districts should just be doing. And that should be the norm, to empower and entrust your certificated staff who is college educated to make decisions.
Yes.
But that's a whole other episode.
When I heard my district say that, I'm new to a district this year, and that was part of our training. That they mentioned that to us, and I was like, wow, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, to circle back, because there's circles everywhere, and we're not even talking about math anymore. So to go back to the YouTube channel, just a couple more things I'm curious about.
Yeah.
First, is that something that you actively promote, and your students are aware of it? Do they watch your videos? Do they? Does that take place?
Oh, I try to hide it as much as I can, because I'm like, oh, I don't really want them seeing this, just because, I don't know, it's like in my house and my baby is there. Not that they would, judge me or anything, but sometimes I want to keep that private. But there's always a kid who finds it, always. So most of my students already know about it. We've only had one semester together and they've already found it. And then actually last year, I also had a class of sixth graders. And on the first or second day of school, there were these two girls that came up to me and they said, Mrs. Forbes, you just really seem like a YouTuber. You should really start a YouTube channel. And I was like, oh, okay. They're like, we want to help you. We know how to do it. Can we shoot videos for you and help you make a channel? And I was like, oh. So I let them think that I didn't know what I was doing for a little while. And then eventually they found it. And they were like, oh, we could tell you were a YouTuber.
That is fun. That's great.
Yeah. They actually shot a video for me. They wanted to do a teacher fashion video. And so they came to my room for a couple of days at lunch and got some footage. So it was pretty funny. They were proud of themselves for helping.
That is great. And I as you're telling the story, I'm thinking she's going to end it by saying these two students are now on staff and they shoot all my content.
I wish. I've had kids actually offer I'm a really good video editor. Can I edit your videos? Can you pay me? I'm like, oh, no, I can't pay anybody.
So actually that story is a great segue to the other aspect of it that I was curious about. And I was wondering if you could share the tools that you use and what goes into production for your content.
Just in preparation for this interview, I just went back to kind of check, when did I start this channel? And what did I do at the beginning? It had been a while. And I was watching one of my oldest videos, and I remember that I didn't have a very good camera, and I didn't even understand that the memory was full for a couple weeks. And I was like, why does this camera not work? Couldn't figure it out. And so I used my cell phone, just a reverse camera, on a selfie stick. And I was just holding the selfie stick with one hand, really low, so you couldn't see it. But the camera kind of shakes every time that I move, because it's just my cell phone. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. But that's how you start. You can't wait to start stuff like this until you have a nice camera, or until you've got all this technology. You just have to start it and see how it goes. And then, I taught summer school a couple summers ago and saved up that money to buy a nicer camera and a tripod. And you just kind of move up as you go, but start with a cell phone if you don't have anything else.
Nice. And what goes into what you do now in terms of how you edit the videos? What software do you use? What does production look like?
I use iMovie, and so I have a Mac. I had a 9-year-old one, and then actually this year for my 30th birthday, my husband surprised me with a new one. I was so excited because my other one was just starting to. It couldn't handle all of the videos that I was trying to make. Making videos requires a lot of memory, and so you have to kind of have a way to manage like deleting your files or putting them on an external hard drive or something like that. And these were things I had no idea about at the beginning. So you just kind of learn as you go and make mistakes. And sometimes, you weren't recording the whole time that you made a video, or the lighting was terrible, or sound was off. So what is put up on the internet is maybe 50% of what you actually have created, because a lot of it you end up having to throw out. But it's kind of part of the creative process too.
Where do you get the inspiration from for the content of your videos?
A lot of times I'll get it from comments in, below videos. People will ask. There's a lot of requests for kind of tips for new teachers, or behavior management things, or just lesson planning things. So I try to kind of answer those questions that people have asked. Or sometimes I'll just be really excited about a lesson and just want to talk about it. Now that I'm done with grad school, I want to kind of go back and reflect on getting a master's while you're teaching. And so I think that I'll probably make a few videos about writing a thesis and doing research. And then my son now has been inspiration for a few videos, just, trying to teach while you're pregnant, or teaching with really young kids. As you mentioned, teaching is a lifestyle. So your schedule's very set, and it affects the other areas of your life. And so I like to make videos about that as well, kind of how to balance teaching with the outside forces in your life as well.
Absolutely. I mean, as a father of a 4-year-old and a almost 2-year-old, there's a reason I do these interviews at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, after they're in bed. I know there's a lot of juggling that has to happen.
I will again say thank you so much for taking time here tonight. And again, I'm so appreciative.
Oh, this has been great. So much
of
fun.
what you do, and I'm glad you're having fun. So the tradition continues. But before I let you go, what advice would you give the person who's listening right now who says, wow, that's so cool. I love her story. I wish I could do it, but, and they have an excuse. What advice would you give somebody to help them really dive into create whatever content they want to create?
Yeah. Well, I can see how people would be a little hesitant to put too much out there when you're a teacher, just because, there are students that they can find your Facebook or your Instagram or your YouTube channel in about 2 seconds. They just know how to do that. And then you have parents that may come across things. And so sometimes people are a little hesitant to put too much of yourself out there. But as long as you're being true to who you are, and you are making content that is to encourage people and not to complain, then I don't think that you'll have any issues. I know that sometimes social media can be a platform where people complain about things, and that's not very constructive. But if your goal is just to encourage other people and help them along in their journey, I think the reward is going to outweigh any risk that you think there might be.
Awesome. I think that will be helpful to some people who I know listen and have been curious either to start a podcast or do video, or maybe even just start blogging, because there's all types of content that can be created. So I think that will definitely help some people, put their foot on the gas.
Even if your students do find you, I think they bore of me pretty quickly. They have to see me all day long. I don't think they're sitting there watching my videos all night long. So I think they feel excited that they found it first of all, and they kind of lose interest. So I don't think they're going to be stalking you or anything.
Also something good to know. So now that we've given some advice and we've gotten a little peek behind the curtain of the Too Cool for Middle School YouTube channel, for people who want to continue to speak with you and pick your brain and learn from you and with you, what are the best ways that people can connect with you?
I started off on Instagram. Actually, there's a really great teacher community on Instagram. If you use the hashtag Teachers Follow Teachers or hashtag Teachers of Instagram, you'll find hundreds of really cool and encouraging teacher Instagram pages. So I'm on Instagram at Too Cool for Middle School. I also have Snapchat, and Snapchat is where I kind of show my lessons, I show my classroom, I show the actual process of me lesson planning or kind of deciding what I'm going to use for the week. And so I'm on Snapchat at Mrs. Forbes. So it's MRS4BZ. And so Snapchat is usually kind of a fun place to connect with people. And then I also have a Twitter account that is through my district. And so it's literally the things that I'm doing in my classroom at the moment or things that we're doing in our district. And that is also at Mrs. Forbes, MRS4BZ _AUSD. And Arcadia Unified is a really good district to follow as far as a district that's really progressive in their technology and in their social media presence. Arcadia Unified has a Twitter account, and they put a lot of information out there because they just want to promote all the great things that their students are doing and the great things that their teachers are doing. Since, sometimes we get negative press, they just want to make sure that there's much more positive things out there on the internet that parents and students and other people can see.
Awesome. I am sure, I know I am now going to connect with you on some of the platforms I haven't connected with you yet. And actually, as I'm taking notes here, I have yet to do the episode that really dives into Snapchat in education. So you are on my super secret list of they know what they're doing and they can help me and teach others. So you're on the list of I need to bring you back, and that's what we're going to talk about.
That'd be great. Oh, and a platform that I forgot to mention is Facebook. I also have a Too Cool for Middle School Facebook. And I don't know how I didn't realize this before, but I just figured out how to kind of co-manage like my personal Facebook and my page from like the same device. It's very easy. I don't know why I didn't figure that out earlier, but I post a lot of just like encouraging articles or videos on that channel.
And of course, in addition, connecting with Megan in all of those platforms, you need to go and check out and subscribe to her YouTube channel.
Yes.
And there will, of course, be a link in the show notes.
Yes.
Megan, thank you so much for being on the House of EdTech.
Thank you for having me. Thank you again, Megan. You who is listening may now be inspired to potentially add YouTube to your personal or professional repertoire. I appreciate Megan giving us a little bit of a behind the scenes to how she uses YouTube and how she's brought that into her classroom and how she has made that a part of her life. And definitely check out her channel, subscribe, leave her comments on her videos. She does a really nice job, and they're entertaining. So I have an appreciation for that. Although, as I've always said, I am not made for video. And yet, again, here I am recording this for Facebook Live. And if you're not a part of the House of EdTech Facebook group, you need to get over to chrisnessy.com/Facebook, where I can let you in to the community. And then you might get notifications that I am deciding to do this live. So let me shout out right here in the episode, Karina Gonzalez and Karen Graham, who are checking out the live recording of this episode. And I appreciate this. That's very cool. Thank you so much, ladies. Very much appreciated. But on with the show. And we have one last segment. And that, of course, is the House of EdTech VIP. Chuck Poole is a teacher, a husband, a coach, and a friend. He's the creator of Teachonomy.com, which helps make life easier and less stressful for teachers. And Teachonomy is Teachonomy.com. Chuck has been teaching for 15 years and believes teachers can change the world, as do I. He understands that there are times when we feel overwhelmed and frustrated. Chuck doesn't have all the answers and doesn't pretend that he is a master motivator or the ultimate inspiration for kids. He does believe in teachers and believes in the impact we have on a daily basis that can be remarkable. Chuck's vision is to create a community for teachers where they can be inspired and empowered to do amazing things every day.
Teachonomy Talks is his weekly podcast dedicated to inspiring and empowering teachers. His goal is to help you think outside the box, equip you with ideas and insight, and come alongside you on the journey we are all on together. Follow Chuck on Twitter. He is at cpoole27, and that's CPOOLE, the number 2, the number 7. And again, check out his podcast, Teachonomy Talks, and all of his great blog posts and content at teachonomy.com. And again, that's TEACHONOMY. Congratulations, Chuck. You are the House of EdTech VIP. And that is going to do it for episode 81 of the House of EdTech. Thank you once again to summerpd.com for supporting this episode. If you head over there, remember to use the promo code House of EdTech, and you can save yourself $10 when you purchase their 10-course bundle. Please keep the conversation going and visit my website, chrisnesi.com. That's CHRISNESI.com. And it's going to be /81, where you'll be able to access the show notes for this episode, which will contain all the links and information that we shared today. Thank you again to Megan Forbes for having an awesome conversation about middle school and YouTube. And thank you again to Mike Murata and Derek Larson for taking time to send in some feedback. I would love to connect with you and hear your thoughts on the information and resources shared in this and every episode. Just go to chrisnesi.com and click on Share Feedback, and that's going to give you all the different ways that you can contact and connect with me. The fastest is Twitter. My username is Mr. Nesi, MRNESI, and just use the hashtag House of EdTech when you're talking about the podcast. Now, if you enjoy the podcast, and if you get this far, I believe that you do, or if you're checking it out on Facebook, you definitely do. I'd like you to do a couple favors. First, tell somebody else about this podcast. Word of mouth is the best way to share a great podcast that you love. So whether it's a colleague, an administrator, if they need help with tech, send them my way or send me their way. I really don't know how that works. Number 2, rate and review the podcast on iTunes. Your rating and honest review do help to keep the podcast front and center for others to discover and enjoy. Thank you very much to 2 people who recently left me some podcast reviews in iTunes. First, Stella with 6 F's at the end, so Stella FFFFFF from the US, said she's a podcast newbie and she made it one of her New Year's resolutions to begin listening to podcasts for her job, and this is one of the best ones that she found. Which means you're not looking hard enough, Stella. No, but thank you. I appreciate it. You've listened to 21 episodes so far. I will keep up the great work, and I'm glad you love the show. Thank you so much. Also, thank you to Dina Delaire. She's also from the U.S. Her trip to work is about 39 minutes. She loves learning great tips from me and learning about new apps and extensions. Thank you so much, Dina, for leaving the review. I will also, again, keep up the great work. You too can also show your support for the podcast through Patreon. You can go to chrisnesi.com/awesome, where you can support the show financially. I would appreciate that. Thanks as always to my awesome supporters, Jen Giffen, Peggy George, Mark Grindell, Dan Gallagher, Jeff Herb, and Brent Warner. I really appreciate the support. The next episode of the House of EdTech, number 82, will be released on March 19th, 2017, and it's time for the 4th annual EdTech Final Four. If you want to check out the previous 3 installments, you can check out episodes 7, 32, and 57. Until next time, thank you for joining me, and remember, using technology is not difficult. Just give it a try. The House of EdTech is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. The Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. For more, go to edupodcastnetwork.com.